One way that we categorize consonants is by determining whether they're voiceless or voiced. It's important to know the difference between them because the length of the vowel that comes before is determined by whether the consonant that follows it is voiceless or voiced. You will learn more about this later in this chapter. Also, knowing whether a sound is voiceless or voiced will help you to correctly pronounce the ed endings and the s endings of words. You will learn this in detail in the next chapter. First, let's learn how to distinguish between a voiced and a voiceless consonant. Place your fingers in the front middle part of your neck. Now say z, as in the word zoo. Now, let's make it longer. Z. You should feel a vibration in your vocal cords. This is how you know that the z sound is voiced. Now, let's try this with the s sound, as in the word sat. Say s. Now, let's prolong it. S. This time, there was no vibration in your vocal cords. That's all there is to it. The tongue and lip positions of the z and the s are identical. The only difference between them is vibration or no vibration. Vowel length and voiced and voiceless consonants. Vowels are longer when followed by a voiced consonant and shorter when followed by a voiceless consonant. Voiceless and voiced consonants, word pairs for practice. The first word of the pair ends with the voiceless consonant and the second with the voiced one. Notice the difference in vowel length. S, z.
Advice, advise. Ice, eyes. Niece, knees.
T, d.
Mate, maid. Hat, had. Bet, bed.
F, v.
Half, have. Life, live. Belief, believe.
K, g.
Back, bag. Duck, dog. Duck, dug.
Sentence pairs for practice for voiceless and voiced consonants. You will hear two sentences. The first sentence has a word with the voiceless consonant, and the second sentence has a word with the voiced consonant.
My wallet is in the back. My wallet is in the bag. I saw $5 on the floor. I saw 5 bugs on the floor. He has blue ice. He has blue eyes. I heard about the lice. I heard about the lies.
Word pairs in sentences.
He told me lies about the lice. His eyes are ice cold. There was a buzz on the bus. The dog is on the dock.
ED endings. The final ED forms the past tense of regular verbs such as needed and worked, and some adjectives such as interested and tired. The ED can cause problems for non-native speakers because it can be pronounced in 3 different ways, as id, d, or t. Here are the 3 rules you need to know. Rule number 1. If the last letter of the word is spelled with a D or a T, the ED is pronounced as a separate syllable, id. Words for practice. Needed. Avoided.
Admitted. Separated.
Attended. Visited.
Decided. Waited.
Rule number 2. If the last letter of the word ends in a voiced consonant or a vowel sound, the E is silent and the D is pronounced as D. Words for practice. Opened. Called.
Changed. Closed.
Earned. Loved.
Pulled. Showed.
Rule number 3. If the last letter of the word ends in a voiceless consonant, the E is silent and the D is pronounced as T. Words for practice. Passed. Washed.
Helped. Watched.
Laughed. Worked.
Stopped. Liked.
Linking ED endings plus a vowel. Linking is connecting the final sound of one word to the first sound of the following word. You will need to learn to link words together to create smooth, natural speech. This is discussed in much greater detail in Chapter 8. Sound like a true native speaker. It's especially important for you to learn to link words with ED endings. The final T and D sounds are much easier to pronounce if they're connected to the vowel that follows it. For example, stayed in sounds like stayed in. Turned on sounds like turned on. Developed a sounds like developed a. Needed a sounds like needed a. Words for practice. Worried about. Looked at. Talked about.
Interested in. Worked on. Liked it.
More linking practice. ED verbs plus the word it. You will first hear a verb in the present tense, then you will hear it in the past tense ED form linked with the word it. Need. I needed it. Paint. I painted it.
Attend. I attended it. Admit. I admitted it.
Cook. I cooked it. Like. I liked it.
Watch. I watched it. Stop. I stopped it.
Use. I used it. Clean. I cleaned it.
Change. I changed it. Love. I loved it.
Conversations for practice for ED verbs. Listen to the following dialogues, which contain questions and answers, but only repeat the answers because those contain the ED verb and the word it. Make sure that you link these two words.
What did you think of the movie?
I liked it a lot.
What did you do with the money?
I deposited it in the bank.
How did you cook the chicken?
I fried it in oil.
Is the heater on?
No, I turned it off.
When did you paint the room?
I painted it last week. Dialogues for practice, job interview. Listen to the ED endings of the past tense verbs and try to determine which of the three possible sounds you hear, d, t, or id. In the first part of the job interview, each of the ED verbs is followed by a word that starts with a vowel. Make sure that you're linking these two words. Tell me about some of your experiences as a university student.
I studied accounting and finance. I graduated at the top of my class. I maintained a 4.0 GPA. I played on my college basketball team and participated in many extracurricular activities. I volunteered at the homeless shelter. I partied every weekend. I dated a lot of pretty girls. I loved every minute of it.
Describe some of your personal qualities that would make you qualified for this position.
I'm detail-oriented, highly motivated, and organized. I'm also focused and determined, and I work well in a fast-paced environment. I have an advanced knowledge of computers. I'm also college-educated and well-traveled.
S and Z. The letter S is sometimes pronounced as a Z sound and sometimes as a S sound. When the S follows a consonant, there are rules for how you pronounce it. But when it follows a vowel, there are no rules, so it's best to just memorize the exceptions. Rules for pronouncing S and Z. Voiceless consonants followed by an S are pronounced as S. Books. Eats.
Stops. Cats.
Makes. Helps.
Likes. Surfs.
Voiced consonants followed by an S are pronounced as Z. Eggs. Comes.
Beds. Boys.
Lives. loans,
cars, feels,
When a word is spelled with a double S, it's pronounced as a S. Boss, massive,
less, lesson,
success, essay. An extra syllable is added to words that end with an S before these consonant sounds. J, manages, changes,
sh, washes, dishes,
ch, churches, matches,
s, bosses, faces,
x, boxes, faxes. Study tip. Memorize these very common words that have a final S. The S is pronounced as a Z and not a S. Was, is, as,
his, hers, has,
these, those, whose.
goes, does, always,
Because. Warning, common mistake. The S in the prefix dis is pronounced as S and not as Z. Examples: disagree, disorder,
disobey, disapprove,
disappear, disability. Stops and continuants. There is another important way the consonants are categorized besides whether they're voiced or voiceless. Consonants can either be stops or continuants, depending on whether the airflow is stopped or if it's continued. For example, when we say the S sound, spelled with the letter S, we can prolong it by saying yes. The S sound is considered a continuant because the airflow can continue as long as we have air in our lungs. But if we say the word job, we cannot continue the final B sound. We stop the airflow by closing our lips. Therefore, B is a stop. If we quickly open our lips, we can then release the stop and say job. Holding final stops. Americans generally do not release many of the final stops. For example, when they say the letter P in the word stop, the lips stay closed. No air comes out. This creates almost a silent version of the sound P, or a half P. We know the P is there, but we don't hear all of it. If the lips were released, there would be a slight puff of air. Let's try another stop, the sound G. Don't say big, say big. Hold the final G sound by making sure that your tongue remains up in the back of the mouth when you're done saying the word. Words for practice. Final P.
stop, cup, up, shop,
Final B.
club, job, sub, tub,
Final D.
married, played, sad, dad,
Final T.
that, sat, it, cut.
Final stop followed by another consonant. The final stop is held when the next word within the same sentence is another consonant. However, when the final stop is at the end of the sentence, this rule is much more flexible. Sometimes the sound is released, as in, the house is big, or it's held, as in, the house is big. However, you wouldn't say, this is a big house. Instead, you would hold the G sound of the word big, and you would say, this is a big house. Word groups for practice. Make sure that you hold the final consonant of the first word of the pair.
Help him. Keep talking. Did that. Could go.
Stop that. Job market. Big park. Cupcake. You will learn more rules about pronouncing final consonants in Chapter 8, titled Sound Like a True Native Speaker.